Hello, this is the Emphysema Bootcamp intro series. It's relevant if you have emphysema or COPD or COAD, which is also called. It's relevant if you have severe asthma and if you have chronic bronchitis. The Emphysema Bootcamp is a series of trainings and exercises and education that will give you an option with emphysema. The first thing we'll do today is we will go very quickly through the theory. Now, the theory that you'll learn, essentially in a very simplified way, is the same theory that severe asthmatics were able to reduce their breathlessness and the need for medication, average of 90%. Now, if you have emphysema, which otherwise you wouldn't be here, you already know that you have trouble with emphysema, with breathlessness, and you're also taking a whole bunch of medications, and you're probably wondering what they do, if anything, good for you. After we go through that theory, and it will be very, very simple, we'll give you some drills. We'll give you a breathing test that will tell you whether this will work for you or not, although I'm fairly certain we can say that within 10 days to 2 weeks, you'll find an improvement in your breathlessness. It won't necessarily change your disease, but you will have less breathlessness and less need for medication. It'll also give you a sense of hope that you're going in the right direction, which is a fairly important thing. Later on in the boot camp, there's other elements to do with diet, and different kinds of foods and drills and techniques, as well as equipment that may help you with your condition. After that, if you want more information, I'm happy to share that with you. Very quickly, you may have noticed I doodle. I find that if you see things drawn in front of you, it'll make more sense more quickly than someone just talking about it or using a PowerPoint. Okay, so let's hopefully scroll up this technology. Now, as I said, my name is James Hooper. Now, I came across this model back in the 1990s when I had severe asthma myself. Within a very short time, I had relieved myself of all symptoms. I learned that once you have the theory in place and you know what you're doing, you can either figure it out for yourself or you can get expert guidance wherever you can find it. In my case, that involved traveling around, following other instructors, going to Russia, learning as much as I can as quickly as I could. So let's get started on the theory, and I will go very, very quickly. If you want more on this information, I've got a book on Amazon called How to Grow Out of Asthma as Quickly as Possible, as quickly as humanly possible. If you just search for that, you'll find it. It's $10 on Kindle or something. And where we're going to start within the theory is that most people believe that they know something about breathing because they've been doing it for a long time. And I'm going to suggest to you that in most cases, you know less than you think. In fact, when I say what is the purpose of breathing, people go, well, it's to get the bad air out and the good air in. We're going to change that straight away. We're going to say that the purpose of your breathing is to provide a balance of gases in your lungs. There's two gases involved. You already know this. It's oxygen, or O2, and carbon dioxide are the two main. There are other gases, one of which is nitric oxide, which is very important, and we'll go over that later on. There are things to do with nitric oxide which are very exciting, and you'll be pretty keen to learn about those. Now, the key point is with two of the gases, people believe that O2 is good, CO2 is bad or is a waste gas. I'm going to say to you that both are good, and that let's just change the position of carbon dioxide in the world. I'm going to say that it is potentially the most important to learn more about if you have emphysema or COAD, COPD or bronchitis or a range of things. I'm going to say to you that it's been considered in the past to be a waste gas. However, I'm going to say that the ideal amount of gas in your lungs, CO2 in your lungs, is 6 to 6.5%. Now that doesn't mean anything to you at this stage, but what I'm going to say to you is if that number gets too low, you will die. So if you're completely effective at getting that waste product, as you used to think about it, out of your lungs, then you're in strife. You will die. Now, people go, yeah, okay, James, and I'm going to say to you that this is in all the medical textbooks. It's all there. There's nothing unusual. Now, in the air around us, we need to have an understanding of what breathing does. In the air, there is 0.03, almost 0.004% carbon dioxide. Now, in a practical sense of your breathing, that is equivalent to 0. Now, you need to get, ideally, 6.5% carbon dioxide in your lungs. That's your lungs, not in your bloodstream. And that number changes with emphysema because sometimes you have an effect which causes it to be too high. It goes way high in some sections of your lungs. Let's just assume for now you don't have emphysema so you can see the model. Now, there's almost none in the air. You need to have 6%, say, or even 4% will give you sort of a reasonable go at life. Where does the carbon dioxide come from? So there's none in the air. You need to have some inside. So therefore, if you've got some inside, it's because you are producing it. CO2, when they break down sugars. So inside our body, when we break down sugars or carbohydrates in general, we produce CO2 and simple. So the whole process of breathing is designed to have inside your lungs, you have the right balance of O2 and CO2. So if you breathe out too much carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide obviously will do what? It'll drop. If it drops too low, you'll die. Similarly, if you don't breathe enough out, it'll go too high and you'll die. So you see that it's a point. Now, you already know that in your carbon dioxide is important. In a normal event, short of you being hypoxic and already starving for air, it's carbon dioxide that will control your breathing, not your oxygen. And this happens in a part of your brain called the respiratory center. And it'll make sense as to why I'm explaining that soon. Now, the respiratory center is sensitive to carbon dioxide. When it gets higher than it's used to, it tells you to breathe. Let some out. And that's the trigger. So if you were to hold your breath, after a certain amount of time, the carbon dioxide would build up. That carbon dioxide would go to your respiratory center, would be sensed there. And when it got used to your normal level, the normal level, the level that you're used to, which is not normal, but it's what you're used to, it will tell you to breathe. It's nothing to do with oxygen at that stage. So what I'm going to say to you is rather interesting. So the first thing is that in the air, there's almost no carbon dioxide. You need some in your lungs, so you trap it in, and you'll die. Your body doesn't want you to die. So what are the things that your body can do? And now we're going to get into the theory of asthma we'll start off with. Because in a sense, asthma and other conditions, it's going to make sense to you in that your breathing is causing the effect which causes the condition. So let's pretend, here's another bit of information for you. At rest, you need 4 to 6 liters. If you're an adult, you breathe 4 to 6 liters per minute at rest. Now, if you're breathing that right amount, that will give you the right level of CO2. If you breathe more than that per minute, what will happen? Now, we've already discussed up above, if you breathe out more carbon dioxide than you generate, the CO2 level will drop. There's plenty of studies around, and you'll find it on the website shortly. That's emphysemabootcamp.com. that people with asthma, people with emphysema, people with high blood pressure, people with low blood pressure, people with migraine, people with diabetes, and a variety of other conditions, they don't breathe at 4 to 6 litres per minute. They breathe between 10 to 18 litres per minute. And there's plenty of studies and you can look them up, but for now, just accept that that might be true because that helps with the theory. So in terms of asthma, because it's really simple to explain, the people with the ability to have asthma are able to do a certain response when their carbon dioxide goes too low. For example, I can do this. I have the genetic ability to do asthma. So should my CO2 level get too low, my body has the ability to try and trap it more. So the first thing that happens for me is that draw this rather well. Let's talk about something called bronchoconstriction. Which simply means broncho or bronchus is air pipe, constriction means when it's smaller. So if you imagine in my lovely drawing here that, where am I think it's changing. No, I can pretend I can draw a circle. We don't want it to be like that. How do I get rid of that? There's a setting in here. There must be it. It turns off. There we go. So I should be able to draw a circle now without turning. Okay, so this is the air pipe coming through. Now, imagine the air is going through here, right? So it's going through the center there. That's where the air is going in. Now, the walls of this air pipe have a very special kind of muscle in the wall. And the very special kind of muscle is interestingly called smooth muscle. Now, smooth muscle is a very, very cool item. Now, one of the things that happens with smooth muscle is that if it's got low CO2, it causes the smooth muscle to swell. So carbon dioxide gets too low because I'm breathing 10 to 18 litres per minute, if not more. It doesn't want that to happen, so I have the ability to make myself breathe less. So this smooth muscle here swells up. And if you've done basic plumbing, you can see that the size of the hole means that much less air is going to get through. Now, if much less air is going to get through, that means that the carbon dioxide can't be released, and that will cause the carbon dioxide levels to rise. As that carbon dioxide gets higher and away from the danger zone, then the smooth muscle will go back to its normal size. And you can breathe again. Fairly simple. So in this theory, remember it's a theory, so because that's simply what we're doing here, I'm saying that a low level of carbon dioxide will cause the smooth muscle in your air pipes to swell up. And when the carbon dioxide is restored, then there's no need for that effect, so it opens back up again. Here to here. Now, the other effect that happens, remember, we just stay with this lovely story because that's all it is for now, is that the other kind of effect that you get in both emphysema, asthma, COPD, COAD, chronic bronchitis, and all these other things is in these air pipes, there's particular glands. I can't go into detail of what they're called, but that's in my course. Right? These particular glands have a particular job, and their job is to make mucus. I, in fact, call them mucus factories. And we've got another plumbing effect, and you can see it coming, I'm pretty sure, is that when our carbon dioxide level gets too low, in some people, it will cause, okay, we're breathing too much, carbon dioxide level goes down, gets too low, body says, what can we do? In some people, I only get this a little bit, but some people it's the main kind of symptom. The lower level of carbon dioxide tells the mucus factory to go into overtime and crank out tons and tons of mucus. Oops, let's go green. Doesn't come out green, it's just a nice color. Now, if you've got a pipe and you fill it up with sticky mucus, what will that do to the flow of air through the pipe? Obviously, it's going to be reduce the airflow because it's a smaller pipe. That is going to cause the carbon dioxide levels to rise and move away from the danger zone, which the whole thing is trying to help you with. Now, once you've trapped in sufficient carbon dioxide again, here the mucus factories slow down. You often do that big cough and or whatever you do, and that generates, you can feel the relief at that point. Oh yeah. Straightforward. Now, here we have within the story for asthma, if I can shrink this down again. Yeah, cool. We start off at recognizing that the carbon dioxide here is the key point. Carbon dioxide causes smooth muscle constriction. So those of you who have bronchi, anything to do with swollen air pipes, this is the key. Anything to do with mucus, this is the key. Now, in terms of emphysema, you also have this big again. A bit tricky to draw. So you imagine you've got air pipes coming in like this, and then they do this, and they blow out to an alveoli at the end, sort of like that. When you have emphysema, not only do you get the mucus production, let's put our little mucus factories in here. You get mucus in the alveoli, which is the, well, okay, good drawing. So if you can imagine something like a cauliflower, with the pipes come in, spread out to smaller and smaller and smaller things and various things. At the end of these pipes, there's little sacs where the actual air exchange happens, which are called the alveoli. Now, if you've got emphysema or COPD or COA, you can probably draw it better than me. The key point is that these here you have mucus factories. They fill up with mucus, and that causes all kinds of blockages. And once they seal off here, you can get dead cells, and then you're in the loop where they tell you that you need to have lung volume reduction and all sorts of interesting things. Now, I'm not going to say that anybody is wrong in any approach that anyone has ever done to emphysema or COPD. What I'm going to say to you is that the key point to this discussion, hopefully this will move over, is that if you train yourself and you get an understanding that as part of your condition, if not before, instead of breathing 4 to 6 liters per minute, you are breathing much, much more. And one of the effects of that is bronchoconstriction, and the other is mucus production. Now, I said this is to do with asthma. Now, interesting thing is, if you have a blocked nose, let me just share this with you because it's a bit mind-blowing, blocked nose. If you have a blocked nose, or if anyone has a blocked nose, I'm going to say that the same drawing that was up above, make that go up a little bit. There's an air pipe going through, and there's smooth muscle here. Inside your nasal cavity, smooth muscle. Now, we know that smooth muscle swells up when carbon dioxide level is low. So if you have low carbon dioxide, your nasal cavity will swell up. These muscles, smooth muscles, swell up. and you may have either a partially or complete blocked nose. Very simply, if you want to prove or have a think of this theory, find someone with a blocked nose if it's not you, and very simply, well, the way that I describe it is you stop breathing. And when you start breathing again, you breathe like there's a bad smell. A very bad smell. So the first thing is that stop breathing causes CO2 levels to rise, and as they rise, the smooth muscle will decrease. And if you keep breathing as if there's a bad smell, for example, you're in the car and the dog farts, you breathe just enough air to stay alive. That's what I mean for this test. Your blocked nose, short of it being a huge crooked head that's been hit with a football or whatever, it will be less blocked. And if you repeat that, you'll get to a point where your nose will be completely unblocked. I like using that in workshops because everyone can see immediately that there's a difference in how clear their nostrils are. So if you're going to do it, you basically block one nostril, breathe through it, block the other nostril, breathe through it, give them a score for how blocked they are, and then essentially stop breathing, trap in some carbon dioxide. There's lots of ways you can do it. You can hold your breath. You can go for a walk with your mouth closed. The key point is this: you won't die if you close your mouth. If your nose is blocked, providing it's not to do with an occlusion because you've got a broken nose, it will unblock before you die. I say that in jest, it's more fun in real life, so test it. So key point. So what have we learned in this theory? We've said that carbon dioxide is not waste. If it gets too low, you'll die. And that some of us are lucky, and you may not be happy with this, to have the ability to cause massive amounts of mucus production in our lungs, as well as having smooth muscle that swells and closes. Now you can see straight away that for most people, that's asthma. It's also blocked nose. Really, it also ties into sleep apnea, which is a slightly different system. Many of you with emphysema will also have some degree of sleep apnea. Now, first, the good news. If you have, at this stage, let's just turn this color around. If you get relief from drugs like Ventolin, which is a which means air pipe dilator, D-I-L-A-T-O-R, it makes the smooth muscle unswell. That's a technical term for it. If you get any results in your breathing or in your symptoms from using drugs like Ventolin, which is also called albuterol, it's a reliever medication. If that works for you, for your emphysemic symptoms, that's a good sign. Because it means that you've got an element of asthma. And the thing about asthma is that there's less damage and there's more protection to your body than emphysema. Now, I often talk about a scale where we have all asthma, all emphysema, so a lot of people, well, some people are all emphysema. They've got almost no asthma component. I define asthma as happening in the bronchi rather than the alveoli. The more asthma component you've got, which is measured by your response to these drugs, whether through nebulizers or puffers or whatever, the better off you are. Because the damage that's happened inside your lungs from your asthma response is much better and easy to deal with than the damage from the emphysema in the bronchi, in the alveoli. So if you get any results, any improvements in your condition, symptoms from using albuterol or Ventolin or those such things, that's a good sign, because in general, according to the studies, if you're an asthmatic, if you have asthma, any asthma at all, even a tiny little bit, if you have, well, let's go this way. If you have 10% asthma and 90% emphysema, this 10% will improve really quickly with this breathing method. Now, in the trials that happened for this breathing method, which is called Buteyko, B-U-T-E-Y-K-O, in the trials, there was an average of 90% reduction in symptoms, which included mucus production and breathlessness symptoms, as well as equivalent reductions in medications. And the medication reduction included both the relief and the steroid-based ones, relievers. And in general, in workshops, this happens within 7 to 10 days, if not sooner. For very severe, allow a few months. If you're on monster doses of steroids and things, this happens a bit more slowly, and you've got to be very careful with it. You don't change, just in case you're considering any of this, don't change medication without talking to your medical professionals. So if you have asthma, 90% reduction in symptoms and medication, and the symptoms include breathlessness and mucus. Now, what I'm going to say is about emphysema and related COPD, or depending what continent you're on, COAD. In general, within 1 to 2 weeks, you'll get a slight improvement in your quality of life. QOL, that's what you do, quality of life. Now, over months and years, the key point of this is that hopefully you can slow progression or even stop progression of your disease while having a better life. So the first goal is to figure out if this is for you and whether you want to do it or not. The next goal after that is to see what happens in the long term, because once you can get control of your recovery, let's just be a little bit, talk about the symptoms. Most people with emphysema, you'll do something, you'll have an exertion, which might be as simple as brushing your teeth, going to the toilet, having a shower, having a bath, putting your trousers on, putting your shoes and socks on, flights of stairs, even 2 at a time. The exertion takes a long time to recover. So in the short term, the quality of life that comes along is, first of all, to get, as you get better at the breathing, you'll find that the recovery time is improved. So the first stage is in your recovery. So currently, you're simply walking from your kitchen to your living room, or just as a walk like that, you sit down and it may take you 5 to 10 minutes or half an hour to recover from that. You may have to sit there and wait, or need nebulizers full of a variety of drugs and pills and such things. With this breathing method, the first step is to get you to recover faster. And once you can recover faster, you'll find that it happens kind of at the same time, but your endurance improves. Now, those two things feed off each other, and you find that after a time, if you really work, and it's not easy, it's not that pleasant, but it is a path you can follow. The goal is to actually get to a point where you can do training. In much the same sense as a professional athlete would train, except that you start on a very low base. For many people, an example of the training that you do is once you've got control and you can do the drills and you can keep your breathing in your awareness without freaking, then essentially it might be as simple as stand up, sit down. Once. And after a week or two, it might be up to 3 times. So if you did it now, it might, each time you do this, it changes your body's processes and you get the benefits of training, which is why I've called this product and training itself the Emphysema Bootcamp. Because I want you to think of yourself as an athlete, not as someone who's now stuck in a chair forever. Even if you're stuck in the chair and you can't get up, If it's not standing up, maybe it's swing your arms around, recover, swing your arms around, recover, swing your arms around, recover. If you search the web, you'll find in various places stories of people who've had emphysema or bronchiectasis or other nasty conditions, and they've done something, and they've learned yoga, or they've found God, or whatever they've done, and they get a change in their condition. What I'm suggesting to you now is that I'm offering you a chance to consider a theory. And by now, when I talk to people, I find that their heads get a bit full and they've had enough for one session. So what I might do is simply direct you to, if you're on YouTube, just if you can follow this channel, which is called Emphysema Bootcamp. As in emphysema and bootcamp. Now, the website that we're building for this is .com, emphysemabootcamp.com. We'll also follow, and if you similarly, you can go to Facebook and find the page and the group there. That's probably a better place to go. To go to Facebook, find this and like that page. Or if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel or something, whatever you need to do. Then I can contact you in Facebook or here and say when the next video comes out. So when the next video, number 2, which we'll attempt to do next day or so, I'm going to show you how to measure your breathing. And then a couple of simple drills. Now, let me tell you right now that the drill are very much like the nose clearing drill, where the goal will be, now that you understand it, is to trap in more carbon dioxide to reduce the mucus and reduce the swelling. Now, if you want to contact me, I'm over in Australia. You can probably tell by the accent. I have a lot of different businesses and things that I do. If you desperately need to contact me, you can send me an email, james@seminar.com.au. Other than that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Find us on Facebook so you can know when this second video is out. And I look forward to talking to you then. In the meantime, don't change your medication. Don't do anything stupid. Your goal is to stay alive so you can find a theory that takes you in the direction you want to go with your condition, which is not the one that your doctors say that you're going to go in. So I invite you to find a way to prove them wrong, whether with this or with some other way, but simply don't give up. Okay, so thanks everyone, and keep an eye out for the next video. Bye.